Watch this.
Caldwell School Board may have put a pause on their proposed transgender policy, but that hasn't put a stop to how their current procedures won't still impact students. How? We asked a mom and her transgender daughter.
It's getting crazy in here today.
Is it crazy to consider expanding Idaho's borders? According to the House, maybe not. But Oregonians don't start celebrating just yet.
When you start thinking you know everything about a cow, they'll fool you every time.
A herd of new Idahoans are moving in. Nope, they're not from California. It's calving season on Lord Ranch. Earlier this week, when we were previewing Monday night's Caldwell School District Board meeting, when they were going to hear testimony about their proposed gender identity policy, the one that ended up pausing after learning lawmakers were planning to make their inclusive policy illegal anyway. Well, that day we broke down the game plan put out by a California-based church group on how attendees, those opposed to the policy specifically, how they should handle themselves at this meeting and how they should handle the media. In that plan, the Values Advocacy Council referred to kids, and especially transgender kids, as being brainwashed by the left. And hearing that, Carrie Moore decided to send us a message about her 14-year-old daughter, who wasn't brainwashed and who attended Syringa Middle School in the Caldwell School District just a couple of years ago. Carrie said the counselors, administration, and staff did what they could to provide her a safe learning environment while never infringing on the rights of others. Trans girls are not tricking society just so they can get into a girl's bathroom, she said. If you knew how hard it is and how stressful it is for a trans youth to accept and embrace their identity, you'd know it's not worth a fleeting opportunity to be in the girls' locker room during PE. Maybe you've heard that narrative, that trans kids are just running around violating people's privacy in school bathrooms and locker rooms. Well, we wanted to know how it's actually being handled, straight from the source, those who are actually living in this reality. Carrie and her daughter, Georgie, who will be a freshman next fall, sat down with us to explain it.
But most of the kids that come forward with gender dysphoria have other illnesses, mental illnesses, bipolar, severe depression. Many of them are on the autism spectrum, or they've had severe trauma in their life, usually sexual trauma.
So I actually have an older daughter who came out as queer when she was 18, and I believed those things. I believed somebody hurt her, something is wrong, and it caused her to do this. And having those feelings, those emotions, that belief damaged my relationship with my daughter. So I had to do some investigating. I had to do some serious inward discovery and realize that nobody can make you be LGBTQ. Nobody can make you gay, queer. Nobody can make you trans. She was born this way. My other daughter was born that way.
You feel that way, Georgie?
Yeah, completely.
What do you say to somebody who thinks that? That this was brought on you, or this was...
I think you have a dangerous mindset, that their ideals and opinions are hurting a community that is already hurting.
When you first heard the term transgender, what did you think?
I thought that's me.
Why?
I don't know. I've never really, I was never uncomfortable with identifying as a boy. It was just, when I heard it, I realized I would be much more comfortable.
When she said, I'm transgender, it clicked with me. It made perfect sense. She may never have felt those inconsistencies when she was younger, but I saw them. So it 100% when she said, I'm transgender, there wasn't a doubt. I believed her from moment one.
When you came out at school, and I assume you went to the school and talked to them about this, how did that happen?
We very specifically told them, at that point we were still using non-binary. She is non-binary. We do have some concerns, like for the restroom use. What can you do for us? And the counselor immediately, we have other non-binary students, we can work out a plan. And that's what we did. We sat down, we wrote out a 504, and they could do that because she has a gender dysphoria diagnosis. It meant that, you know, when the other kids were going and using the girls' restroom or the boys' restroom, she had to excuse herself and go to the counselor's office, but it was safe for her to do that.
So when the Caldwell School District was considering listening to thoughts on this proposal to make the policy that transgender kids can go to whichever bathroom or locker room with which they identify, is that something you'd want to see?
Absolutely.
Why?
Once a child makes that commitment that they're willing to live, to socially transition and live their life as a gender other than what they were assigned at birth, we have to support them. We have to let them know that we believe them, that they are a human and the gender that they believe they are. Specifically when they're in a household where they're maybe not getting the support that they need. Having that at school is so important for their mental health.
Would you rather go to the girls' restroom like everybody else?
Next year when I go to back to public school, I would like to use the women's restroom because I identify as a woman. You know, if I'm going to the bathroom and, you know, it's a free period and everyone is, you know, they'd see me avoid the women's restroom and go into the counselor's office to use the bathroom.
So it's important to you to feel like you belong?
Yeah.
Just like everybody else?
Just like everybody else. I'd feel like they don't see me as who I am.
I mean, it'd be easy for you just to stay home and do the homeschool thing.
Yeah.
So why don't you?
Well, because I miss I miss friends. I miss seeing people. I miss talking to people.
As a mom, when you see these meetings and what's going on in the State House?
I get angry. I get very angry. Well, I get angry for her that they're wanting to take this away from her. But I get angry because I feel like my parental rights, my right to have my daughter receive whatever medical care I feel she needs, taken away from me.
What do you feel about this current focus on transgender and LGBTQ?
Well, I think that stopping hormone treatment, stopping puberty blockers, that it's really dangerous. You are taking a couple detransitioners' opinions over hundreds of thousands of transgender people who are actively disagreeing. The fact that they had to take a detransitioner from California just because they couldn't find one locally, that says a lot. Taking their word on it instead of, you know, a marginalized group who just want to exist. It's dangerous. It's harmful.
Georgie has just recently started taking puberty blockers, and Carrie says they would likely move out of Idaho if House Bill 71 becomes law to make sure her daughter does get the care she needs. No word yet on when or if it will be heard on the Senate side. Access to free books, education, computers, summer reading contests, the Dewey Decimal System. Public libraries are basically a cornerstone in most communities, especially for kids. It's an access first made available nearly 2 centuries ago, but there's a push to put an end to that access in Meridian. Ada County commissioners were sent a petition last week to get rid of the Meridian Library District. The group called Concerned Citizens of Meridian filed the petition accusing the district of misuse of taxpayer funds because some books in Meridian libraries are, quote, offensive and shouldn't be available to kids. We've talked extensively about this before. It's rare that offensive books or those meant for older readers are just sitting in the kids section of libraries. But also, who determines what is offensive? Shouldn't parents be doing that? Those questions will once again be considered if the Ada County commissioners decide to host a hearing about this dissolution petition. They're going to know tomorrow if there are enough verified signatures. They need 50 of them to do that. They will then decide if they will hold a public hearing within the next month or so. That is the rule. They have to know within 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, I should say, not before 3 weeks, but not after 6 weeks. Then they will decide if getting rid of the library district in Meridian should be up to actual Meridian voters, all 125,000 of them, instead of just the 50 or so who supposedly signed that petition. Okay, so about this Greater Idaho thing. Well, for the first time, It was in front of the full house in Idaho. And you know what? They kind of like it. You have something to share with the 208? All you got to do is send it to us, to the number on your screen, 208-321-5614. Don't forget your name and the hashtag the 208. It always helps to be clear, concise, and of course, clever. That way, we might share yours at the end of the show. Marathon committee meeting at the Idaho State House. Day 2 of public testimony on the topic of education savings accounts, or ESAs. Senate Education heard hours of testimony yesterday, and that continues today. In short, it's a proposal that's going to allow tax dollars to be put into accounts for families that do not think the public school, their local public school, is the best option for their child. So, Joe, here we are. 5 hours or so, more than 5 hours over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Are we going to get a vote on this anytime soon in this committee?
We are expecting a vote soon in this committee. However, at this time, at 5:10 here on Wednesday, Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
That's correct. Yeah, all day Wednesday. We actually still haven't had a vote, and I actually know the committee, they took some more testimony here this afternoon, and they're actually, the bill sponsor, Senator Tammy Nichols, is actually answering questions from the committee right now. I think we do have a live feed that we can show you just in a minute. But again, yes, about 5 hours of testimony between yesterday and today. We heard some of the same major concerns that were pretty consistent between yesterday and today. You can see this is actually Senator Nichols talking live right now. This is in the Senate Education Committee. In terms of the testifying, again, 5 hours of it, a majority of people that testified were against this ESA piece of legislation. Here's a real quick taste of some of those comments.
Even though I support homeschooling, I know many wonderful parents who do that and many wonderful kids who come out of that they've been carved out to have an exemption from any accountability or evaluation. My tax dollars go many places for some things that I consume and some I don't, but I can follow them and participate in the accountability for them. That won't happen with homeschoolers or with parents accessing private schools. Anyone who receives tax dollars from the state becomes an agent of the state, and therefore they have a responsibility to the Constitution and the use of that money.
Many before me have discussed a lack of accountability and a lack of funding as reasons to oppose SB 1038. I would argue that this lack of accountability is largely the reason that many of us have elected to take our children into a homeschool environment. The 25-to-1 ratio in classrooms, 1 school psychiatrist for 4 to 6 schools in the Nampa School District, and the complete lack of education options for children who are hungry to learn in a system that consistently teaches to the bottom of the learning scale. As a parent who wants my child to excel and become a leader in her community and among her peers, I urge the committee to uphold educational freedoms, not by forcing me to pay tax dollars into a broken school system I choose not to use due to their inability to support any child who would force them to do more than the minimum required by state standard.
So we're keeping an eye on that committee for you. Chairman Lentz said he did want to have a vote on it today, but we'll keep you posted as that progresses. Again, you can see live right here Senator Nichols testifying instead of the Senate Education. So we'll come back to this if they get a decision later on in our show. Also for you on the Legislative Watch, the journey to create Greater Idaho. Oh yes, this is the plan that involves Idaho absorbing a portion of eastern Oregon, and the concept has been discussed by an advocacy group and select lawmakers over the past few years. But today, the House floor talked about making it happen. Yep, that makes it official legislative business. And to be clear, the legislative conversation and vote today was only a question to lawmakers. Should they begin official conversations on the topic with the Oregon legislature? Yes or no? Why do advocates want Greater Idaho, as it's called, to exist? Well, in short, they believe the politics, values, and lifestyle of Eastern Oregon better matches Idaho than Western Oregon. So, did lawmakers vote to continue the conversation, or is this a pipe dream that got quickly shot down? Here's some of the debate, and let's start with one of the sponsors of the idea, Representative Barbara Ehart.
Why wouldn't we at least want to have a conversation about increasing the size of our state? You know that up until just recently, we've been the #1 fastest growing state in the nation, with a lot of people coming here, and our open areas are becoming less and less apparent. So we would be looking at adding a large landmass to the state of Idaho. Why not have that conversation?
We were limited by Constitution to 35 members, 35 districts, as I recall. And if we added that much area and that many people, suddenly it would go to almost nearly 70,000 people per district, which means each of our districts would have to be that much bigger. So I will be voting no on the bill.
I've been getting along here as part of a 17% minority. I work with everybody. We work with everybody. This is not the direction America should be taking. We should not be self-segregating by ideology like this. I think we're on a path to civil war if we keep going down this path. We have got to learn to get along better and work together better. The answer cannot be to just start carving up the country and redrawing lines that have been in place for a century or more just so that we can only be surrounded by people that perfectly agree with us. I think this is an unfortunate direction for America, for Idaho, and for all concerned. And I hope that someday we move in an America that moves away from the current wave of partisanship. I think this exacerbates a dangerous direction that America is moving in.
It's been interesting because the 11 counties in Oregon have actually gone through the formal process of holding votes within their county to say, let's proceed. America's actually watching. We're not the only state looking to do this. There are many states throughout the union right now looking to do the same thing. It's just that ours has received more national publicity and we've received more attraction. So all we want to do, Mr. Speaker and friends, is have a conversation.
All right, so Brian, the idea passed the Idaho House pretty convincingly, 41 to 28 with one person absent. So now this heads to the Idaho Senate on the committee level. And if this were to pass the Idaho Senate full time, again, this is just a memorial resolution, then I guess it's game on for real.
Like Representative Rebel said, wasn't this the basis of the Civil War?
Well,
we believe what we want to believe. They can go do their own thing. All right, thank you very much, Joe.
Coming up next, we'll take you out to the foothills of Mayfield in the middle of calving season.
We are still weeks away from springtime, but there's a ranch nestled in the foothills of Mayfield where lots of calves are making their way into the world already. According to the Department of Ag, there are more cows than people in the Gem State, and cattle is our second largest ag sector. So cows, as you know, are a pretty big deal here. Sophia Bliss went to Lord Ranch to find out how calving season is going so far.
I've always said this is the center of the universe. It's the center of my universe. For all my life, and my granddad's life and my dad's life, it's been the center of our universe.
Since 1945, the Lord family has been on this land in the Mayfield area, in between Boise and Mountain Home.
Compared to a lot of ranches in Idaho, we're the new guys.
New guys or not, it's a busy time of year for Jeff Lord. It's calving season, and Lord is closely watching to make sure everything goes smoothly for his herd.
It's a fun time of year because it's when you get those new calves. And
work on a ranch is year-round and pretty energy-intensive. And even though sometimes he's watching the herd around the clock, he says it just comes with the territory.
It's just a time to get those calves on the ground and get them growing and do what we do. But I mean, I like gathering in the fall. I like all of it. It's just a different time of year, different jobs. This is one that you don't get as much sleep as others.
And sleep all depends on how his herd is doing.
I usually wake up between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Once you get up, you go out, and we still have some yearling calves we're feeding, so we feed them. We feed our, after we've checked the calves first. My son goes through the big bunch, and I go through the heifers. Then we feed everything, and then from then on, it just kind of depends. If we have a water issue, we fix a water tank, or we have an equipment problem. We'll try our best to fix that and keep everything running.
Lord typically checks on the heifers every 3 to 4 hours. A heifer is a cow that's never had a baby before, and sometimes those babies need a little extra help. Lord is calling this calf Candy. He says he found her out in the pasture and her temperature was too low. They weren't sure if she was going to make it through the night. So they brought her inside their house and put her in the warm water in the kitchen sink. And thanks to the intervention, she survived.
There's a lot of people that do a lot more than we do, and a lot of people that do a lot less. It's just nature of the business.
Lord said he's calves in February, but not all ranchers do things the same way. He thinks working with what your ranch has to offer is important. In his area, the season for green grass in the spring is really short. So he chooses February and hopes that the winter isn't too harsh and the new additions to the herd can utilize the spring grasses. Even with Lord's years of experience and constant watching and waiting, he says it can still be tough to tell just when cows are ready to give birth.
A lot of it is our cows will fool you. We'll have cows that show all the signs of calving, and they won't for a month. When you start thinking you know everything about a cow, they'll fool you every time. You kind of know, but you don't know for sure.
One thing Lord does know for sure, though, is how to tell if a mother and calf are bonding.
We like to see that they've nursed. Well, first of all, if the mother paying attention to it, like that heifer over there, she's starting to lick it, and he's already up on his feet, so he's a really good active calf. When she licks him, I mean, that's their way of loving him, and that motivates them to get up and they know it's their mama.
A sign of success after lots of hard work. But Lord says he'll take the hard work over luck any day.
I think hard work's a little more predictable than superstition, personally. It's not that hard to get up and look. What they say, the best thing you can do for your land is put your shadow on it. So that's what we try to do.
Lord also says the workload really depends on the year and the weather conditions. He even told me about one year when his son was in high school and the weather was in such poor conditions that his son needed to skip wrestling tournaments because it was an all hands on deck situation. So Brian, this year has been a little bit more mild in comparison, but as of last night, Jeff still had 4 calves at his house.
Like not just at his house, but in his house?
I think so.
Well, I can see now why they call it a farmhouse sink. I never knew that before today.
The more you know.
Thanks, Sophia. All right, let's get to your comments. Final minute of the show, like this one from Nikki, who says, as a Christian and a Republican, my church teaches it's not your job to judge, it's your job to love. My heart breaks for trans people. It's not their choice, but we can choose to love, says Nikki. Why didn't you talk one-on-one with Chloe Cole? Well, I'll tell you, we tried, but we were not answered. So we didn't get that opportunity. And something tells me we probably wouldn't be given that opportunity if we asked, or if we wouldn't be able to get the opportunity we were looking for anyway, even if they allowed us to. Years ago, it was said on a movie, boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. Feelings don't change that, says Ed. That movie, by the way, where that was said, it's Kindergarten Cop. All of a sudden you want to listen to kids now? Just because of what was said on Kindergarten Cop? Understanding what's going on in the legislature for most of us was nil, pre the 208. Now we have you, the 208. Thank you, says Gary in Napa. Well, thank you for watching. That's what we want to do. Regarding Greater Idaho, why would Oregon teachers want to receive Idaho's teachers' pay? It's a very good question. Oh, by the way, 69 years old, Brad and Emmett. Nice.